Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining today's webinar on dealing with challenging people. This webinar is based on Nova Cerrigo's 4-hour social styles team building workshop and one of our over 200 workshops that we teach. During the webinar, we'll briefly cover some basics to help you understand the different social styles and how to better communicate or get along with people in the home and at the office. We hope the webinar will improve your understanding of social styles and help you build stronger, more successful relationships. So who do we have presenting today? Well, we have myself. I'm Paul Sevillani. I'm the CEO of Nova Cerrigo. I am a Fortune 500 consultant in the areas of strategic planning, human performance, and organizational transformation. We also have Mally Mancia. She is Nova Cerrigo's operation manager and senior training consultant focusing on human performance and enterprise training solutions. So let's talk about what is a social style. A social style is a behavior that one exhibits when interacting with others. And there are 4 basic styles. The first one is analytical. The next one is driver. Then we have amiable. We have expressive. And we're going to talk about these 4 social styles in a bit. So first, as we go through this, what do you think your social styles is? Are you an analytical? You tend to be serious, you like facts and figures? Or are you a driver? You're strong-willed, you like to take control and be in charge. Are you amiable? You're easygoing, agreeable, and you like approvals from others. Are you expressive? You're friendly, enthusiastic, you love recognition. Now, until we go further, we'd like to go based solely on your gut feeling. Which one of the 4 social styles listed above do you feel that you are? Now, you may not be any one specific social style or 100%, but for the sake of what we're doing right now, please pick one of those social styles and jot it down in the question and answer section. And Mally, are we seeing some responses?
We are. They're just starting to filter in. So it does look like we have a driver, an analytical, couple amiables. There's a couple more drivers showing up, and a few expressives. So it does look like we have several social styles here, or predicted social styles here on our webinar today. So that's great, a full house.
It seems like we're tending to go driver, so this is a strong-willed group, so we better be prepared, Mally.
Yes, indeed. Thanks, Paul. Okay, so moving on here, why don't we go ahead and now that we have jotted down what we believe our social style is, let's take a look at some questions here to help us determine what social style you might be. So during our social styles team building workshop, we do use 25 questions, but however, for this short webinar, we're going to only use 5 questions. So what we're going to do is we're going to read this question here and we're going to select an answer. So here we go. Question number 1. If you have an important decision to make, do you A, think it through completely before deciding, B, go with your gut instincts, C, consider the impact it will have on others before deciding, or D, run it by someone whose opinion you respect before deciding? So what I need you to do is take a minute, just review the questions and the answers, select a single answer, and again, jot it down and keep track of your answers because you will need your results later in the webinar to help with understanding some of the things we're going through. So just really quick review, and then we'll go on to the next question. Okay, about 10 more seconds. Okay, question number 2. If your spouse or partner is upset, do you A, ask if you can do anything to help? B, leave them alone because you don't want to intrude on their privacy? C, try to cheer them up and help them to see the bright side? Or D, feel uncomfortable and hope they get over it soon? Again, review the questions and answers, select a single answer, and jot it down. Okay, I'm going to do about 10 more seconds for this question, and then we'll move on to the next question. If I am moving too fast, please do let me know in the Q&A, and I will lengthen the time between questions to give more opportunity for review. Okay, moving on to question number 3. When you are behind on a project or work and feel pressure to get it done, do you A, make a list of everything you need to do, in what order, by when? B, block out everything else and focus 100% on the work you need to do? C, become anxious and have a hard time focusing on your work? Or D, set a date to get the project done by and go for it? Go ahead and review the Q&A. Go ahead and review the questions and answers and jot down what answer best fits you. Okay, about 10 more seconds. Question number 4. When you are late for a meeting or appointment, do you simply call ahead to say that you will be a few minutes late? B, feel bad about keeping the other person waiting? C, get very upset and rush to get there as soon as possible? D, apologize profusely once you arrive. Go ahead and take a minute to review the question and answer, select the single answer, and jot it down. Okay, about 10 more seconds, and we will move on to question number 5. Okay, question number 5. When you feel verbally attacked by someone, do you A, tell them to stop? B, feel hurt but usually don't say anything? C, simply ignore the anger and focus on the facts of the situation? D, let them know in strong terms that you don't like the behavior? Take a minute, review the question and answers, and select the answer that best fits you. Jot it down. Okay, about 10 more seconds. Okay. So here we have the answer key. Let's check your answers and see how you did. So please take a look at the answers at the bottom of each question slash section area and select your answer. So what you're going to do here, for example, is in question number 1, you chose A as your answer. You would select the blue A equals AN, and if you chose B as your answer, you would choose the red B, the red B equals DR, and so on. So go ahead and check your answers for question number 1. And then for question number 2, the answers are different. So please match your answer to the answer key for that question as well and jot it down and continue through all 5 questions. Once you've had an opportunity to check all your answers, go ahead and in the Q&A section, jot down what color is more prevalent or what letters are showing up as more prevalent. I'll give you a minute to do this. And again, we're only using 5 questions, so the results may not be specific, but we do feel that these 5 questions do give us pretty reliable information. Okay, it does look like we're starting to get some answers to filter in the Q&A here, so great. Looks like we have an an EX come in, an AN, a couple more ANs. One AN came in 4 out of 5. We have another person came in all yellow. 3 green and 2 yellow. Great. So we're getting a bunch of answers coming in, and it does look like we have a full house here again. So just like the group predicted here, it looks like we do have a little bit of everyone on the call today. So that's fantastic. So moving on here, did your results match the social style you thought you were? So back on the last page, we did have the initials and the colors. So the AN is for analytical, the DR is for driver, and the AM is for amiable, and the EX is for expressive, along with the corresponding colors. Now, taking those results and going back to what you first predicted, did your social style after answering the 5 questions match what you originally predicted your social style was? So, and in the Q&A, if you want to go ahead and either answer yes or let me know what your social style is and yes, or as well as if it was different and what you predicted and what you actually what the questions showed that you were. So if you want to put that information in, that's very helpful for us when moving forward with the webinar. So it looks like we have 3 yeses. They were able to predict their social style up front. It does look like we had someone predicted they were analytical, came in as a driver actually. We had an amiable come in as an expressive. So again, we had a few people that were able to distinguish their social style up at the beginning, and we have a few people that were different. So we'll go ahead and move on and talk further about the social styles and let you know how this all pulls together. So Paul, go ahead and get us started.
Thank you, Mally. And for those people that change slightly, as we go through this next couple of slides, you'll kind of see that you really are in that same area that you thought. You may, those that thought they were analytical and went to driver, you'll kind of see how that is still in a certain, close to a certain area. So how do we do this? Everything's based on the social styles model. And the social styles model consists of 4 patterns or styles based on the behaviors within 2 dimensions, which is assertiveness and responsiveness. And you can see the responsiveness is top and bottom. The assertiveness on this is left and right. The assertiveness dimension of behavior measures the degree which others perceive a person as tending to ask or tell during interactions with them. The responsiveness dimension of behavior measures the degree which others perceive a person as tending to control, keeping their feelings inside, or emote, which is an outward display of feelings or emotions during interactions with them. So let's look at some of the basic characteristics of the social style spectrum. Assertiveness versus responsiveness. Some people prefer to take the lead in more assertive ways, speaking directly and frankly while focusing on the strategic objectives of the teams. Others prefer to respond to input from other people, sharing their own ideas as a way to build upon others. An individual's tendency towards assertiveness or responsiveness shows in their communication style, through conflict management, the job roles that they're drawn to, the way that they perceive themselves, and typically their contributions in the workplace. Emoting versus controlling. Some people need to express themselves outwardly in social situations, social settings, while others prefer to maintain control and composure. The expressive and amiable styles displays openly and respond best to those who do the same. Their tendency to emote helps them build relationships in all directions at work, but it can have mixed effect on the team cohesiveness, and we'll talk about that in a little while. The driving and analytical styles, on the other hand, tend to view displays of emotion as unrequired and only being relevant in certain situations, not including the workplace. Now, as I said earlier, please remember, people don't always fall into one specific social style. Some people hover between the 2 social styles, and we heard a few minutes ago we had analytical and drivers, and we're going to talk a little more about that through this webinar. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the basic characteristics of each social style, and we're going to start with the analytical social style. The analytical, these individuals value facts above all and appear quiet, cool, and independent. Now, for the sake of Novus Origo's webinar in the areas of social styles, we associate social styles with animals within the jungle environment. And we do that because as we talk about analytical and driver or expressive and amiable, we'll call it the facts and the perspectives of each one of these, but it's when we put the animals in, you'll get a better understanding of how they may interact or not interact with each other. So for our analytical, we use the owl. The owl is, above all, appears quiet, cool, and independent, and that's who we use to represent the owl. Our next social style we're going to talk about is the driver. These individuals are seen as strong-willed, they take risks, and they're more emotionally controlled. Now, if you can guess what animal we may slide into this one, it's the lion. And the lion is a very strong-willed animal, takes risks, and doesn't express emotions too much. The next one we're going to talk about is the amiable. These individuals are people-oriented and seen as easygoing and supportive. And for our work here at Novus, we throw our friend the turtle in there. Our turtle is the amiable, very easygoing, and very supportive. The next one, are expressive. And this is one of my favorite one. These individuals are motivated by recognition, described as outgoing and more dramatic. What animal better to represent an expressive than our monkey? Our monkey loves to be very energetic and outgoing and just loves all that enthusiasm. So as you can see, we've talked about all the different characteristics of the social styles. And as we go further through our webinar today, can you start to envision how some of these social styles may interact with each other or not interact with each other based on, their characteristics? Next slide, please, Melly. So The question is, we've talked about all 4 social styles. Which social style should we have on one of our project teams? Please write your responses in the Q&A section in the webinar so we can discuss a little bit of this. And Mally, would you tell us what we're seeing?
Absolutely, Paul. So we're getting some answers. So it looks like it says analytical and driver. We have drivers. A couple people saying everyone. A mixed group. Okay, and we're seeing a couple of the same results come in. A lot of drivers and analyticals or mixed group is what we're seeing the majority of our responses as, Paul.
Okay, thanks. And I expected, and I'm not looking at the responses right now, but I did expect the drivers would say, I want drivers. I want a team of people like myself because we can get the darn thing done. But keep in mind, on a project, you do need those people to come in with facts and figures. You do need those people that can drive a project to success. But you want to also stop burnout, and that's where your expressives come in. They put the enthusiasm in, they put the emotion in, they start bringing the energy to a project, as well as your amiables. Your amiables are those people that I'm here to support. What do you want me to do? Less conflict as you task them. So there are benefits along each one of these social styles. There are the negatives. We're going to talk a little bit about that here in a second. So moving on, let's talk about the basic wants, needs, strengths, and weaknesses of each social style, starting with our analytical. This is our monkey, our owl. The analyticals, they want to be correct. They have a need of data. And this is critical as you're working with them. And we'll talk about this in a little while. They need respect. Their strengths, they're very detailed and systematic. So as we're looking at these teams and these teams build out, look at the skills that these people bring in. Unfortunately, the weakness of an owl or our analytical, they tend to have poor imagination. They're focused on facts and data, which tends to not allow them or doesn't get them into the areas of doing wild dreaming in the imagination area. So they do have poor imaginations, and I didn't say that very well, so I'm sorry. Our next social style that we're going to talk about is our driver. So the driver, Mally, can you go to the next one? Thank you. The driver, their want is to win. They are success and goal-oriented. They're going to do what it takes to be successful. To do this, they need power and control. Their strengths, they will make a decision. Right or wrong, they will make that decision and go forward with it. This extends why they need to get that analytical on board with them so they can have the facts and figures to make the decision. Unfortunately, one of their weaknesses, they tend to be insensitive to others. They really don't want to listen to the issues of others because in their minds, they know it has to be done and they're going to drive to get it done. Mally, can you tell us about the next social style?
Great. Thank you, Paul. So our next social style is our expressive. And our expressive monkey wants to have fun, to be liked, and they need recognition. One of their strengths are they're very enthusiastic and they like to initiate things. One of the weaknesses of our expressive is they can be too impulsive. Oftentimes they don't think things through prior to reacting. Next, we have our amiable. Our amiable wants to avoid conflict and pain, and they want to fit in. They need approval from others, or they look for approval from others. That's one of their needs. Their strengths is they're supportive and they're good listeners. And then their weakness is the amiables won't make decisions or they're not quick to make decisions. So, taking a look at these social styles and knowing the wants, needs, strengths, and weaknesses of each social style and how to properly interact with each will help you not only at work, but also in your home environment. Now, Paul, why don't you tell us about the different social styles?
Sure. So let's face it, sometimes these opposites just can't tolerate being around each other. Lion and the turtle. our driver and our our amiable. Just you see what happens when that lion comes into the room. That poor little turtle goes into the shell and does not contribute anything. Let's look at our owl, our analytical, and our monkey and our expressive. A monkey just wants to get out there, do things, and have a little bit of fun. Our owl, unfortunately, gets very, very frustrated, doesn't have the facts and figures, and doesn't really want to tolerate our poor little friend, the monkey there. Have you ever witnessed a driver and an amiable trying to go to lunch? Driver goes up, hey, turtle. Oh, let's just put it between the lion and the turtle. Hey, turtle, where do you want to go to lunch? I don't know. You pick. No, I picked the last 5 times. You pick. No, I'll go wherever you want to go. It creates a frustrating situation because all the driver wants is the turtle to make a decision, and I'll go out to lunch happily. But the turtle won't make a decision for fear of upsetting or frustrating the driver, which unfortunately it's happening. There's several ways to offset the differences in a work environment. Typically, when a driver comes in, they're standing, so stand when a driver stands. Rise to their level, remove some of that power during the discussion. You're not challenging, you're just getting to that same level. When you're talking to an amiable, sit down, relax, comfort them, and put them at ease to have those conversations. When you're dealing with your analytical, real simple, provide facts and figures. Allow them to have something to focus on and work with. And when we get dealing with our expressive, our monkey, be enthusiastic, use excitement when they deal that. Even if it's around a project, we're going to get this project done. We're going to celebrate, get that enthusiasm because that's what our friends like to do, our expressive likes to do. So do you know what others think your social style is and why this is important? Because being aware of your social style you project will help you to develop relationships, particularly at home and at work. Should we even care about our social styles? Yes. It helps us in our associations with people at home and work. It improves communication and overall performance. It reduces tensions and minimizes conflicts, and it repairs relationships. Now, keep in mind, there are special situation or positional social styles. This is where the role or position requires someone to perform in a social style that would be typically uncomfortable to be in. An amiable being promoted to a leadership role. Managers, keep this in mind as you promote people or people in your organizations go up. There's special situations, but you're also potentially putting people to a position of failure. Military is one example of putting people into social styles where they're not comfortable with. You typically get promoted and put into roles because of your rank. Just because you have it on your sleeve doesn't mean that you can. Your rank on your sleeve doesn't typically mean that you can be in charge of a group of people. I've run into many amiables that they're in charge of groups of people, but when things go wrong or they have to start being drivers, no one takes them typically seriously. So, how do you find out what someone's social style is? You just can't hand them the test the questions we just gave you, or you can't go up to them and say, "Hey, are you a monkey?" You can look for specific traits. It's like a poker game. It's the tell, how they act, how they communicate. Those are some of the typical factors or best ways to do that. Mallie.
Great. Thank you, Paul. So now we are going to talk about the social styles of our spouses, partners, or even if you would like, you can choose a colleague for this exercise. So what we're going to do here is, what do you think the social style is of your partner? Is their social style similar or different from yours? Or are they the opposite of you? Please type in the box your thoughts in Q&A. Again, go ahead and choose a partner, a spouse, or a colleague for this exercise. Okay, so we have a few people coming in here in the Q&A saying that they feel their social style is the same. We have an amiable and a driver. It does look like we have an expressive and a monkey. Not sure, would love to find out. Okay, great. So it does look like we have several different social style predictions coming in as well. So we're going to move on to the questions here. So we are going to use these for your spouse, partner, or colleague. So again, we're going to go ahead and read the questions, review them, and then jot down your answers. So question number 1, when your partner has an important decision to make, do they A, go with their gut instincts, B, think it through completely before deciding, C, consider the impact it will have on others before deciding, or D, run it by someone whose opinion they respect before deciding? Okay, go ahead and review the question and the answers and select the answer that best fits the partner you have in mind for this activity. And make sure to jot it down. Okay, about 10 more seconds. And again, if I am moving too fast, please feel free to let me know in the Q&A and I will slow down. Okay, moving on to question number 2. If you are upset, does your partner A, try to cheer you up and help you to see the bright side? B, leave you alone because they don't want to intrude on your privacy? C, ask if they can do anything to help? Or D, feel uncomfortable and hope that you get over it soon? Go ahead and review the questions and answers and select the answer that best fits your partner and jot it down. And please make sure you're jotting the answers down where you can keep track of them so we can review them at the end with the answer key. Okay, about 10 more seconds. Okay, moving on to question number 3. When your partner is behind on a project or their work and they feel pressure to get it done, do they A, make a list of everything they need to do, in what order, by when? B, block out everything else and focus 100% on the work they need to do? C, set a date to get the project done by and go for it? Or D, become anxious and have a hard time focusing on their work? Go ahead and review the question and answer. Select the answer that best fits your partner and make sure to jot it down. Okay, about 10 more seconds. Okay, question number 4. When your spouse or partner is late for a meeting or appointment, do they A, apologize profusely once they arrive. B, feel bad about keeping the other person waiting. C, get very upset and rush to get there as soon as possible. Or D, simply call ahead to say that they will be a few minutes late. Go ahead and review the question and answers. Select the answer that fits your partner and make sure to jot it down. Okay, about 10 more seconds. And moving on to question number 5. When your partner feels verbally attacked by someone, do they A, tell them to stop, B, feel hurt but usually don't say anything, C, simply ignore the anger and focus on the facts of the situation, or D, let them know in strong terms that they don't like the behavior? Again, take a minute to review the question and answers. Select the answer that fits your partner and make sure to jot it down. Okay, about 10 more seconds. Okay, so let's check your answers for your partner and see how they did. This is the same as the first set of questions, so please take a look at the answer key and at the bottom of each section and select the answer. So, for example, in question number 1, if you chose A as your answer, you would select the A equals DR. And if you chose B, it would be the B equals AN, and so on. Now go ahead and do this for question 1 through 5, but make sure to check the answer key at the bottom of each section because they are different for each question. And once you're done checking your answers, you can go ahead and start in the Q&A section, putting in what their results are. Now you can put in the color, the letter, or pardon me, the color or the letters or their full personality styles if you remember what each one stands for at this point. And again, we are only using 5 questions, so the results may not be specific, but they do tend to be pretty reliable with the 5 questions we use. Give you guys a few more seconds, about 10 more seconds here to check your answers and start filtering in the responses. So it looks like we have some driver partners, amiable, analytical, expressive. So it does look like we have a full house again. With our results. Pardon the delay here. I'm just looking at all the responses coming in. Great. Thank you so much for all your responses. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have Paul talk a little bit about our spouse, partners, or colleagues here.
Thank you, Melly. So now that you have a better understanding of your spouse or partner's social style, is it true that love is blind and that opposites attract? Think about some of the traits that attracted you to your spouse or partner the very first time you met them. Now that you've been with them for a while, Do you still like those traits? Have you ever tried to change the same traits that you were once attracted to? My wife and I are completely opposites, and we were attracted to each other because of our different social styles. I will tell you, there were some significant challenges during our first years of marriage as we adjusted to our differences. Now I can tell you as of Saturday, we will have been married 28 years, so we were able to work through it. So what changes will you make in your relationships now that you have a better understanding of the different styles? Will you interact differently or simply keep things as they are? Allie, what about children?
Great. Thank you, Paul. So now we're turning our focus to our children. Although it takes time for a social style to develop, we can use our knowledge of the social styles to help us enhance or improve our communication styles with our children. But when referring to children, we're going to move away from using the term social style and instead use personality style. So, how would you best describe your child's personality? Is it energetic, spirited, and eager? Is it outgoing? Or is it shy and quiet? Do they tend to be laid back and easygoing? Or are they cautious around strangers but warm up quickly? So, or are they constantly changing in different situations? Says you can also think about your child in the following situations. So when your child goes to a get together or party, how do they interact with others? How do they handle their schoolwork or chores? What does their room look like? So taking that all into consideration, it can help us with their social styles, as well as taking a look at it. The few different photos we have up on the screen right now can tell you or give you an indication of the different social styles that children or their personality styles that children have. So using this information we have learned about social styles and their wants, needs, strengths, and weaknesses, we can help our children learn to interact with the different types of social styles and personalities that they encounter. So being aware of our social style and the social style of others can also help us with them learning to build relationships and help them build relationships on their own. So, Paul, why don't you take us on a road trip?
I will do that. I'm going to take us on a road trip with our 4 social styles. So consider this the project we had talked about. Going back to the last slide for a second, I will share with you that one of those young children on that slide is one of my grandchildren. So I won't tell you which one, but we have used that image and that fits that person perfectly. So let's take a trip across country with our 4 social styles. And we're going to be going from San Diego to Boston, and we're going to have a great time. So how is each one of the social styles going to support our trip? Let's start with our owl. Our analytical. The car gets 24 miles per gallon. We have a 20-gallon tank, which allows us to go 480 miles a day. So our first stop is going to be in Arizona. We have a budget of $40 for lunch, so we're going to eat at Denny's and Burger King. Okay, we can understand that. We can deal with that. Our next social style that we're going to work with is our driver, the lion. We're leaving at 7 a.m. sharp, and I plan on arriving in Boston in 48 hours. If you're not in the car at 7 a.m., we're leaving without you. No excuses. If you can't be on time, then be early. And you can see from the chart, that lion is driving his way across country, determined to get there in 48 hours. Our next person in the road trip, our next social style, is our turtle. You can see by the map, the turtle doesn't really care where we're going. Just tell me what time to be ready and what time to be at the car. It's okay with me with what route you go and where you want to stop. You decide for me. Just please tell me what you want me to do to help out. And then we have our expressive, our monkey. Yay, we're going on a road trip. Can we stop at the Grand Canyon and then go to San Antonio to see the Alamo? Hey, wait, let's hit Vegas too. I love slots. How about New Orleans for gumbo and then New York City? Wait, did you say lobster in Maine? And you can see our expressive has us all over the map. We're going to get to our end destination, but we're going to take a couple of side routes and have a little fun on the way. So as you see that map and see how that lays on top of each other, we are going, like I said a second ago, we are going to end up at the same spot. Just each one of these social styles brings something different to support the team. Mally.
Thank you, Paul. So here we have one other exercise, which shows how different social styles will have different perspectives or different outcomes. So right here, you're driving down the road in your car on a wild and stormy night, trying to get home safely. The weather is like a hurricane with heavy rains, high winds, and lightning flashing constantly with deafening thunder. While driving, you come across a partially covered bus stop, and you see three people waiting for the bus. Person number one is an old woman who looks extremely frail. Person number two is an old friend who once saved your life. And person number three is the person you believe is your perfect partner, the relationship that you've been dreaming about, your soulmate. What are you going to do? You can pick up the old woman because she looks as though she won't make it and thus she should be the first to save. Or you can take the old friend because he once saved your life and this would be the perfect chance to pay him back. Or, however, you may never be able to find your soulmate again. Unfortunately, you only have room for one passenger in your car. It's really small. What would you do and why? So in the Q&A, go ahead and jot your comments into the section and let us know, who would you give a ride to? We have a lot of people coming in saying number one, an old woman who looks extremely frail. We do have all results coming in. Number two, number three. I would say the majority of our responses that I'm seeing are number one, though, Paul.
Interesting.
So what we're going to do here is we're going to keep you in suspense. You can think about it. If you want to know the most acceptable logical answer for this, you can reach out to us at training@novasorigo.com after the webinar, and we'll let you know what the most logical answer is. Now, there is no real correct answer, but there is the most logically accepted answer. And then we also, at the end of the webinar, oh, Paul, pardon me. Go ahead.
No worries, Mally, no worries. So what we'll do is we'll send you the response, and we're going to send you something else for attending the webinar. So we'll send the response off to you. So,
Great,
hey, let's take one last look at our four little animal friends here. Please note we've added 4 additional descriptors to help you remember how specific social styles tend to function. On the top, we've added task. On the bottom, we've added people. To the right, we've added tell, and to the left, we've added ask. So let's talk about our 4 little social styles right now. The analytical are owl. Less assertive, tends to ask more, and less responsive and controls emotions. As we said before, these individuals are described as serious and more exacting. Our driver, our lion, more assertive and tends to tell more, and less responsive, controls emotions. These individuals are seen as strong-willed, takes risks, and emotionally controlled. Our amiable, our turtle, less assertive and tends to ask more, and more responsive, shows emotions. These individuals are people-oriented and seen as easygoing as supportive. And our expressive, the one that's taken us all over the map on our trip, more assertive, tends to tell more, and more responsive, shows emotions. These individuals described as outgoing and more dramatic. Mally.
Thank you, Paul. Now, has your perspective changed on your social style and of those around you? If so, how? So, will it help you to better interact with your coworkers? Or will it help you to better interact with others at home or in your personal life? Well, having a basic understanding of social styles can definitely help you when working with others or building relationships. And as Paul mentioned, we have created this quick reference guide that covers the social styles that we talked about today. And so after the webinar, we'll be sending you out a copy to the email you registered with for this webinar, along with the answer to the last exercise we did, or the most acceptable and logical answer. So if you have any questions that have come up during the webinar, please go ahead and put them in the Q&A and we'll do the best to get to them. We have had a few questions come up earlier in the webinar, so we're going to start with those. And again, we will try to get to everybody's questions, but if we don't, we will email you with a response. So don't worry about it if we don't get to it on the webinar. So the first question we have, Paul, is how are you teaching your workshops with social distancing in place? The workshops, I think this came in at the very beginning. So I believe they were talking about the 200 workshops we referenced at the beginning of the webinar, Paul.
Sure. Thank you, Mally. Yeah, we're doing that several ways. Of course, we all know based on COVID and social distancing, it's put a little bit of a damper on what we call podium-based learning inside classrooms. And that can still be done. What some of our organizations, our companies are doing, instead of maybe having a classroom that would typically teach 24 people, we may cut it down to 9 or 12 and just do another class. Another way that we're doing this is we also provide our training via our self-paced online learning systems and via webinars. This was a short webinar, as we said. We do a 4-hour version of this, which is a lot more interactive, a lot more team building with part of this, and team identification is part of this tool, and organizations use that with people that deal with customer relationships and that. So we could do that via webinar as well. So there's multiple ways that we can push this learning out to your students.
Great, thank you, Paul. And another question that came in is, can I be two different social styles?
Yeah, I'll take that one, Mally. Oh, definitely. As you can see, we tend to hover around one key primary social styles. Like a driver may be up in that lower or that upper right quadrant, but you may also find that you tend to have analytical skills or analytical traits as well as expressive traits. You don't typically see a driver being also amiable, and you don't typically see an analytical being expressive. Those two, they kind of tend to self-negate, but it is a possibility.
Great, thank you, Paul. Another question that came in is, how can I convince my husband what his social style is? I can go ahead and take this.
Sure.
You can hand him the quick reference guide that we will be providing you with and have him take a look at that, and he might be able to distinguish what he feels his social style is. As well as we do have another webinar for this coming up in about 3 weeks. You can have him you can have him join our webinar. We're offering another free webinar in 3 weeks. As well as we do offer team building if you guys are interested in joining a team building workshop for a group session. And then next, we have another question, Paul, here is, do you have other workshops, and where do I find information on the other workshops and webinars?
I'll let you take that one, Mally.
Okay, yes, great. So we do have, like we mentioned, the 200 workshops that are taught via the classroom instruction webinar, and we also do have an online learning management system. But if you go to our website, we do have information about all 200 workshops that we offer on our website. And if you want further information, you can also email us and we can give you more detailed information on it. As well as we do have a YouTube channel out there under Novus Origo that does have some workshop overviews of the classes that we offer. So feel free to check that out as well.
Mally, will we be putting this webinar up on YouTube for individuals to look at? What's the plans behind that?
We can absolutely post this one out on YouTube, or we can make it public, or we can go ahead and put it on YouTube for individuals, and we can send them a private access if they've attended a webinar. So we can just make that deciding factor. But if having access to this a live webinar is something that is of interest to you, just let us know and we will make sure that that is available.
Thanks. And for those individuals that are interested in maybe trying to help a workmate, a partner, or a boss get a better understanding of how they may be, what social style they are, and maybe help improve communications around the work, these are free 1 hour webinars. Just sign them up. Go sign them up on our website or pass them the information. Glad to keep doing these free webinars to help people out. We know that during the time of COVID here and work life balance is taking a little bit of a hit. Those people that are working at home and have children working at home, or they're distancing with work teams and that, we hope that this workshop, even if though it's an introductory one, helps you out, helps you get a better understanding and maybe work with family members and friends.
Great. Thank you, Paul. It looks like we're at our hour time limit here. So again, if your question did not get addressed, I will go through and review all those and make sure that we've addressed everything. If not, I will be sending you an email with a response. And I want to thank everyone for taking their time for joining us today. And thank you, Paul, for joining me today on this webinar.
Thank you,
Everybody
Natalie.
have a wonderful day.